Excited to introduce you to Tod Hynes. Tod, in 2008, started a company that took vehicles and made them hybrid, and I think did it in his dorm room when he was at MIT. He's now he's stuck with something and built it into something really remarkable. In the room, actually on the other side of this room, he's taught a class for a number of years at MIT called MIT Climate and Energy Ventures. And it's almost gone exponential. Every year gets a little better, and the network is really powerful. And I thought it would be worth you understanding what he's doing, because he sees trends in partnering with other universities. He's having a group come from Tsinghua University on Monday. He's figured out ways of using AI. He's doing it all in very innovative ways, and he can be a model for others. And I want to put a spotlight on what he's doing in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, Tod Hynes. Tod.
All right.
So tell me about MIT Climate and Energy Ventures course. Why does the world need to know about this? What's unique about it? What do you think others can be inspired by? And where are you heading with it?
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. The class was started in 2007, and I started teaching in 2008. So it was started by Bill Ollett out of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship. And the class brings together a mix of engineers, scientists, business, and policy students to identify opportunities where they can start new companies. And so every year we get about 50 students. We get about 150 applications. So it's a really competitive process. Everybody's in the last year of their program. It's typically graduate students, so you get masters, PhDs. And what's been amazing is that over the years, about 60 companies have come out of the class. We're not quite done with the impact report, but it's in that range, about 60, and they've raised something around $1.5 billion. There are also about 100 companies. It's again in that range. These are kind of rough numbers that the alums have gone on to start after the class. So, we've been able to get some amazing entrepreneurs to come into the class. Many co-founders met in the class. There's several students that didn't really think they were going to start a company with their technology they were working on in their lab, but they were able to get it to a point where they said, yeah, there's interest in this, and then they participate in the Climate and Energy Prize in the spring, and then they potentially win hundreds of thousands of dollars and go off and start a company. So I think what's unique about it is that it's been going now for a while, and there's about 650 alums around the world. Most are still working in the climate and energy space, and what we're trying to do now is package it up in such a way that we can expand this to other universities. And it's really, I think, a proven way of getting technology out of the market, out of the labs and into the market. And there's a lot of other universities that can leverage this. So we've already started expanding.
So let me just double click on something you said. You said you have interesting students in the class. I came to maybe the first 6 classes, and the first one, you had every student go around and say, I'm a nuclear physicist, I do this, I do that, I'm on a sub. Maybe give some color. What
Sure.
are the range? Because I also think that says something about who's interested in climate.
Yep.
And how has that changed? You've been doing this since 2007.
Yeah.
That's like dog years, like however many years times 7. That's like a generation ago. What's the delta? And is it positive? What do the tea leaves tell us?
Well, now every single student in the class has already worked in some way in the climate and energy space. It used to be a much, maybe 50% at the beginning. Another thing is about half have worked at startups. So you've got people in the room that have gone through the process of working at a startup. And then about 10, this year, I think it's almost 20% of the students have already started companies. And so you've got this great mix of different expertise, lots of relevant experience, and a lot of motivation to go out and do it again.
So, I watched you put a bunch of charts up in front of the students. What were some charts that were most counterintuitive that students who are pretty savvy in the space were like, oh, I didn't realize that, or I didn't know about that opportunity? Because you're shaping these students and seeing, they're coming in with a vector that they want to do something and have impact, and build these ventures, but I feel like you're kind of skewing them certain ways with some of the information you're sharing. What are like 2 or 3, like pretend this is your class, what are 2 of the most provocative things that you've presented and you'll present today to this audience?
So two of the most provocative. The first one is that I show a slide from a board meeting in 2020 with the Woodwell Climate Research Center, where they essentially show destabilization of the jet stream, how the jet stream dips down into Texas, and it's going to sit there for a week or 2 and be really cold. And then I show the image from the Financial Times of a year later, when that exact weather system happened, and it led to about $100 billion of economic loss, lives lost, companies going out of business, and it was completely predicted by climate scientists, and you can go into almost any community and assess the risk associated with that community. So the big lesson there is climate science can tell us what's coming. It's going to impact everywhere in the world, and you can see what's coming in your area, and you have to then be ready. The action has to be local, because the climate scientists didn't know that a lot of the infrastructure wasn't winterized in Texas. It didn't have to be winterized.
You and I talk a lot about how there's things that are happening and we can build on them, but we need to do that other quadrant and come up with ideas that no one's thinking about.
Sure.
Maybe
that was number 2. That was number 2. So
okay,
one,
yeah,
like climate
on
science can tell us what's coming, and the big issue is that we're not moving fast enough. We're not even close to moving fast enough. So the issue is, and when I got into I started my first company in climate and clean energy.
5 companies now?
In that range, but in 2002 when I graduated. So that was when I graduated, and that was in distributed power generation, lots of different technologies. And I've been working for 20 plus years now in decarbonization. And so decarbonization is how do you reduce emissions, how do you get rid of fossil fuels, and that no longer can solve the problem. The climate has gotten, to the point where we are starting to see feedback loops, emissions from thawing permafrost, drying out of the tropics and more forest fires in Canada as well. So removal has not become a big issue. So 5 years ago, carbon removal, that was considered fringe, and it's not anymore. There's tens of billions of dollars of investment going into different companies, different projects, different processes. So you've got what used to be emission reduction. We still have to do that. There's no way we can go forward without doing that. We've got removals, but even that's not going to happen fast enough. And so I think the thing that's going to happen more, and there's now reports coming out, from federal government's funding studies on this, UK's funding studies on this, but will be considered climate interventions. And it's just a different category. There are a whole range of risks associated with that, but we have to understand what the options are, because we need to buy time so we can remove emissions and we can reduce emissions.
All right, one last question. I'm going to make 2 comments. I know that you flew to Austin like every week 2 semesters ago because you were partnering with
18
UT.
flights in 4 months, not a good sustainable
You're doing stuff with
footprint.
TUM, the MIT of Germany, and you have Tsinghua coming in. So you just nod. You're doing stuff with other universities?
Yes.
Okay. That wasn't a question. That was just a nod.
Yeah.
And you're writing a book on all this?
Yeah.
Is that a vanity play just so you can seem important?
No, not at all. So it's a team that's writing it.
Actually, that's just a nod, yes?
No, yes, we're writing a book.
Okay. All right.
No,
this
it's not
is
a
my
vanity
last
play.
question for time. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what I want people to know is I am role model. You're not the most senior faculty at MIT, right?
Absolutely not. I'm like the second rung from the bottom.
Yeah, second rung. But he is hacking this network to pull some of the most talented next generation innovators, and he's trying to help them in extraordinary ways. This is a guy to follow. How are you using AI? What's your AI strategy? Are you an AI denialist and say, I'm not going to use AI, or do you see it can help with fractional stuff? What's the play there?
Yeah, when people think of climate and AI, they usually think of the emissions profile of all of the training the large models and running the models. I think the world is not moving fast enough to solve climate change. Yeah. And the only thing that's going to enable us to move fast enough is using AI in almost everything that we're doing. So we're doing more of the right things faster.
Yeah. We need more people to see how they can lead at this moment. You took a company public right out of college, and you ain't stopped, and you're helping legions of others to be startup leaders. And these are kids that a generation ago wanted to go to Goldman Sachs or be in hedge funds, and you're saying, hey, let's be solution-oriented in the climate. Thank you for your leadership.
All right, thanks for being here.
All right.